He's Bryan Wilson, the Law Haw. Texas A&M grad Bryan Wilson, Fort Worth-based attorney. You may know him from his crazy commercial on the Superbowl with Taco Bell a couple of years ago. He's on the Jess Marshall podcast today. Hope you enjoy it. I think you will. Talk to y'all after. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jess Marshall podcast. Wow. Mark that swipe. Bring it.
At some point, he just got to the finals and was like, dude, I'm out. Like,
really?
Yeah, he had. It was real nasty back in the day because they would put them through all the conflicts.
Yeah.
And it was all in, it would be multiple people you were fighting.
Like on the same day.
On the same
like that
night.
movie Warrior,
and
right?
he'd just be like, man, I'm too beat up. I'm out. Like, y'all got me. I'm out this round. But I think he won at least 2 or 3 UFC championships or whatever they're called. It's really funny how they titled that.
Yeah.
Are you the Ultimate Fighter champion?
Yeah.
And
back when like Tank Abbott's in there throwing it down and stuff like
Tank
that,
Abbott,
man.
I'm trying to think of what he looked like.
Because remember, you've heard of the Lion's Den. When Guy had the Lion's Den here, that was his gym over on Inwood forever.
I feel horrible. I don't know who this guy is. If I saw a picture of him, I'd probably recognize him.
He is, but he's a really cool guy. I'm trying to see. UFC 4. He fought.
That's one of the
Jason
ones I saw.
Farron. He then fought in 5 against John Dowdy, defeated him by a TKO. Then he started training with Ken Shamrock and joined the Pancrase.
That dude used to love to go to the Japanese version of that.
And, and Guy was doing Japanese wrestling competition, Pancrase wrestling, which I don't know if you're familiar with that. And I'm not versed enough to talk with any.
So with Jiu Jitsu and wrestling, I took it for about 6 months and I just kept injuring myself.
Really?
Over and over and over again. And it wouldn't be, Muay Thai, I get a black eye or a busted lip or something like that, and I'd be fine or something. But with Jiu Jitsu, it would be like a strained bicep or a fucked up shoulder or something like that, which is entirely on me.
Yeah.
Entirely me not tapping early enough because I get my arm wrapped up in some horrible way. I'm like, I didn't know apparently this comes with experience, but I'd be like, I think I can get my arm out of this. And I would get it out of it, but then
you'd be injured
later I'd be
through
like,
it.
Oh man. That hurts real bad.
There's the Law Hawk voice right there. I think we're going. Are we going Sohill? I think we're rolling.
And camera.
So when you have a point to make, like fuck the government, you can look right at that one
there.
and point at. And then I'll ask you later for your email address at the end, so people don't bomb your phone. Or if you want to give that,
just remember, right into the mic.
Right into the mic. Yeah.
When does it start getting weird? Is it something like this far away is even weird?
I think it only gets weird if you make it weird.
Okay.
That's what I've been told.
I love it weird, so.
I don't know. Yeah. So how long have you been an attorney then?
I've been an attorney since 2013, November of 2013. Got my bar results. I knew I was going to pass that bar exam. A lot of people were freaking out about it.
You were confident?
I made T-shirts ahead of time.
Really?
They were like, Law Hawk coming 10/31/13, which there was a bit of a panic moment as soon as they're like, oh, bar results are out. And I was like, oh, fuck, what if I didn't pass? I made T-shirts.
Right.
This is going to be bad. But I don't know. I just worked to a point where I thought that there's no way somebody could have worked harder than I did.
Yeah.
And so once I got to that point, I was like, okay.
You called your shot.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to pass.
Right.
I can't imagine somebody working harder than I, which made my fingers hurt, made huge bags under my eyes that seem permanent now.
Right.
But, I was at least confident that I was going to pass.
Hey, hard work works.
Yeah.
So did you grow up wanting to be an attorney? Or how'd that work? Coming from an attorney background? Your dad an attorney?
First attorney in my family.
Really?
Dad's an engineer. Mom's a nurse. I wanted to be a stunt man. Like, even to the point where I was taking gymnastics in high school. And my senior year, I shattered bone in both my ankles and thought, okay, well, that's a pretty big resume gap for a stunt man. Like, I can't land on my feet. And so I quickly applied to schools, TCU, A&M accepted me, and my dad begged me to go to A&M, so I didn't have $200,000 in student debt.
Yeah.
So I went to A&M, played rugby there. And
Wait, so I just found this out before we went on, but that's crazy that you played rugby because I like throwing that around because that's it's my passion. So were you just walking through? Everyone's telling you to uncover when you go through the student union, and the rugby guys are in there recruiting.
You know about the uncovering the
bro. Uncover.
And also walking
Don't walk on the fucking grass.
Walk on the fucking grass. I had to learn that the hard way. But here's the thing, though, is I'm probably what they would consider a 2%er. I didn't really give a shit about their traditions. I would wear orange if I felt like it, and that was something you would get hissed at. I mean, I remember walking around in this orange polo that I liked. I just liked it because it fit really well. I'm going to wear it. And I would get hissed at on campus, just like, hiss. I'm like, what the? That's the second time I've heard that today. They're like, you're wearing orange, dummy. You can't wear orange on A&M campus. I'm like, that's just too many rules.
A lot of people think A&M's like a low-key cult.
It is, but at the same time, cult members take care of other cult members, and like the Aggie ring has gotten me.
You got that thing? Show the camera that thing
right there. It's a big old hunking ring. I wear it when I wear a suit, and
when you go drinking, because you could knock somebody the fuck out with that. Those things are heavy, man.
I have noticed that if you do like a surprise expression, like, oh my God, like this, you'll whack the shit out of yourself on the forehead. You'll leave a mark every single time.
That's funny.
But yeah, I did my ring dunk. I'll send you that video if you want to see it. I haven't seen anybody beat my ring dunk time.
Really?
7.6 seconds.
At the Chicken, or where'd you dunk at?
Zapato's. It's like it was like a bro bar at over on the north side.
A bro bar.
That's how I describe it.
Well, so what were you doing? Running stadium stairs or something at Kyle, and you look over and see the rugby guys playing Smear Your Best Friend on the other field?
I can't remember. I'd always wanted to, I don't know. I'm better at hit people sports than specific skill or smooth skills.
Hence the desire to be a stunt man growing up. Yeah.
Like for instance, like baseball or basketball, like if I shoot a basketball, people are going to laugh. Like it's bad. And everyone's like, oh, you're real tall. You'd be great at basketball. Like, no, I'm not going to be good at basketball at all. And so I didn't think I could, there was no football club. It was just the, NCAA or whatever it is, I don't know, SEC, and we had Johnny Football back then, so we were a pretty good team, and so there's a lot of people trying out. I didn't think I'd be able to make that
12th man or whatever.
I didn't think I'd be able to make the team, and so, but there was rugby available, and I was like, hey, that's kind of like football, except no, they said, it's football except no pads. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty violent. I like that. Yeah. And so went and tried out for it and had a blast. I mean, met a lot of cool people, and those are some wild gentlemen. Yeah. I mean, there's some wild stuff that goes on with those people.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I don't often sit down with people and throw that at them, and they go, "Oh yeah, I played in college," so that's very cool. It's
commonalities.
It seems that way. Yeah. There's most definitely this brotherhood when it comes to rugby that I played a lot of the other sports that I didn't experience in those other sports, where we're still all really good friends. We help each other out. It's very similar to the A&M fraternity, where you're helping each other in business and watching each other's backs. And these days, as separated and segregated and split off as everyone's getting, it's cool to have rugby bros around.
I think there's something special about if you're willing to take some punishment and some pain and some deep breathing cardio and still get hit by a shoulder real good. I got a skull fracture at some point. That's why I was trying to, when you asked me how long I played, I had to take a break and go get a doctor's note saying I could still play because I got a skull fracture in the middle of playing. Yeah, knee to the back of the head. And so it just knocked me clean out. I think that's the only time I've been knocked clean out that I can think of. But I guess there could be more times that I don't know about.
There's flying knees and elbows in rugby.
Just no rules.
Yeah. I mean, or very limited.
If you're playing with the men's teams, there's no rules, and which is funny because now that I'm not in college anymore, I can be one of the men's teams. Which men's teams, if you're playing in college and you're going against a men's team, get ready for just violence. They are just way more likely to rake their cleats across your face or punch you if the ref isn't looking, or doing all kinds of things that are a little bit, I mean, arguably low class, but now as an old man, I get it. And I'm like, well, fuck these college kids.
No doubt,
they need to learn who the real men are.
Well, especially since they got the cardio. But when you got a little age, if you've been playing for a minute, you know where to be, which beats all the cardio in the world, because knowing those angles is invaluable in the game of rugby.
I never knew where to be. I mean, I have told you I played rugby, but I wasn't very good. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Muay Thai is the first sport that I ever felt like I was a natural at.
Right.
Everything else is like I really, really tried hard, and I was okay.
Sure.
I was at best okay.
Well, number 8 might be the most fun, one of the probably 3 most fun positions on the field. So you had to have had some talent, because they don't put a schmuck at number 8 normally.
I truly don't think I had talent at rugby.
Yeah.
I think I could hit occasionally, and I could.
Hey, we'll take it. Jump in the line out. Were they throwing you up in the line out?
Yeah. Okay, you're talking about the thing. It's been a while, but you're talking about the thing where they raise me
lift
up.
You up.
It's happened a couple times. But I remember the first try I ever scored. It was really cool. So in rugby, you have to not only, it's kind of like football, except you have to pass the goal line, and there's no replay or anything, but you have to jam the ball to the ground, and that's sometimes
touch it down.
That's sometimes the problem, is that somebody will hit you and you're past the goal line, but you can't get the ball to the ground because you got a big dude that's just picking you up. And so that's kind of where some of the violence comes from, and I love that. I think that was a lot of fun. But I remember my first one, and my coach was finally like, there we go, Wilson. There you go. And I was like, all right, that feels pretty good.
Yeah. That's rad, man. That's cool. That probably made for a pretty complete college experience then, I would think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was happy to be done with A&M and came back to Fort Worth. You ever been to Joe T's?
Yeah, absolutely.
Worked at Joe T's for a semester.
Okay.
Well, I figured out which law school I was going to end up going to. Went to Tech, and busted my ass for 3 years. Really, law school's, everyone says it's 3 years because it is 3 years of schooling, but it's really 4 years. It's like 6 months before to prep for LSAT and get into law school, and then 6 months after to study for the bar and take it. So it's really a 4-year process, but it's worth it. It's a very adaptable degree. And
were you all in, like just law school all the time, or did you have some jobs to try to help offset the cost, or how'd that go?
I knew I was going to be an attorney at some point. I knew I was probably going to go to law school. I had a lot of people tell me that's where I should end up, and I kind of felt like that's where I should end up. But originally I was going to be a stunt man, and messed up my ankles my senior year, and then had to apply quickly. And then I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit heartbroken, because I was like, man, that's a really cool job that I wanted to have one day and I could never have. And I found created a weird loophole where I kind of get to do stunts and still be a lawyer, which is bizarre. That's not in a playbook or anywhere in any college or career counselor's office. And so I am very proud that happened the way it did.
Yeah.
And so, because it could have easily not gone that way.
Yeah. Well, so how did it happen? Because the way that I found out about you, and I don't know what show I was watching, but I have a hunch I know what it is. What's the most high profile show one of your ads has been on?
Probably the biggest thing that most people have seen is, I've had my third video went pretty viral, where it got passed around a whole lot, and that led to Taco Bell Superbowl commercials.
There it is.
And
yes.
So
okay. I fucking knew it.
Yeah, there were 2 of those, and there have been other shows. They're like random news shows where they'll have me on as a crazy guest, crazy segment. And I was on.
Is this the Taco Bell one ready? Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well,
so this one's there was a national one that I just made an appearance in. They originally were going to just put me, as I recall, they were going to originally just do this one. This is the full 30-second ad. And they were just going to do it in the South or Southwest areas. And way ballsier than I am now, I guess. I took their script and I red pinned it up and I was like, this is way funnier. Let's do this.
Right.
How about this? And I sent it back to him. Crazy. I can't believe I did this. And I was like, this is a lot funnier. Let's do this, this, and this. And they're like, they're like, these are great changes. Do you want to also be on the national commercial?
Oh, hell yeah.
Across the whole nation. And I was like,
Is the Pope Catholic?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to kind of back up what I was saying, I took short videos to, like, I came up with all these ideas of like, oh, I'd be driving through a drive-through and it was all about the quesalupa. And I'm like, I'll take the quesalupa from Taco Bell! And so, oh, by the way, that audio probably really jacked up.
Fire that thing off, Sohail.
Yeah, let's watch this.
I want to watch
So it
this.
started with this one.
Bryan Wilson, the Texas Law Haw! Bryan Wilson, the Texas Law Haw! I'm out here! I'll take the case!
One take. One take is what I
The
had.
case of Luca from Taco Bell! It's gonna be big! Bigger than my talons of justice!
Still have that in my bathroom.
Dude,
Bryan
you-
Yeah,
Wilson,
oh, yeah.
Hungry for cheese in a shell? Go to Taco Bell!
And that,
Taco Bell's newest
that right there,
innovation
the
is
end
so
of
top
that,
secret,
where I'm
even
yelling
in the
the
commercial.
phone, that was like the first 30 seconds of filming. And they like set up all this desk and everything. And they're like, okay, does everything look good? I'm like, all right, what can I break?
Right.
What can I not break is a better question.
Sure.
And they're like, okay, like don't, we got that wall. We got one take on that. Probably don't like completely smash the desk. And I was like, what about this phone and all this stuff? And they're like, yeah, you can be aggressive with that. And so it's like the first thing I'm like, are you all ready? We're rolling. Okay.
That's awesome.
I just yelled, and I can always tell when I have a good take because like all my like best friends are watching this
Right.
stuff. And as soon as I see them just like
They're dying.
start laughing, they have to laugh quiet, but like as soon as they like buckle over, I'm like, hell yeah, I know. It's like all I got to do is make your friends laugh on these videos.
Oh, no doubt.
If you can make your friends laugh that are there, it will probably be funny to other people.
So what? Were you like into comedy growing up? Or were you the class clown?
Always. I mean,
You got like a bunch of brothers or something? So everybody... it's
3 older sisters. And so
Okay.
I didn't know how to fight, but I'm aware of all of their head games they're doing all of the time. I was the youngest, and so yeah.
Is that why you're still single and looking to mingle, I guess?
How'd you know I was single?
I didn't. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, hey, ladies, see what we have here. I'm a free agent, bro. I'll get you connected.
I appreciate that. But I am single, and I don't know if those are related, but
well, if you were exposed to the head games at an early age, then
okay,
it stands to reason that you're like, oh, we're doing head games now. I'm out. Because it takes some dudes a minute to realize that they're getting played.
Man, bless their heart. I mean, yeah, bless their heart.
Bless their heart.
I mean, I just feel bad, like especially like when somebody comes to you with some kind of dating advice, and you kind of see from an outsider's perspective, and you can kind of tell them what is likely going on. You don't know for sure, but what's likely going on, and they're like, "No, man, no,
she's not like that.
No, she's not like that. That's not what's going on." I mean, it happens both ways, though. Like, I mean, it's hard when you're deeply involved in whatever factual situation it is to step back from an outsider's perspective and just examine the objective facts of what's going on.
Right.
And what is
like an attorney would.
happening. Yeah. I mean, we have a weird set of training, and that's why attorneys generally are not liked by most people, is because we can separate emotions from facts. And we kind of naturally do that.
Sure.
And so that's why like a lot of attorneys date and marry each other, and they're kind of like cool with what's going on.
Gotcha.
But if you get somebody that's not an attorney versus married to somebody that is, there's more arguments. I mean, I don't even like attorneys, honestly. I mean, well, vast majority of them. I mean, like I have some good friends that are attorneys, but for the most part, I'd be good friends with them whether we are attorneys or not.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't really want to date any of them, or it's just it's just arguments, like,
right.
Which is, I think, just training for what you're doing in the courtroom. But I don't want to do that. I want to turn my brain off when I get done with my hard work. I want to work really hard throughout the day and then turn my brain off and have fun later, and not make things a step-by-step argument or call into question your underlying premise of your argument.
Right.
It's like,
you contradicted yourself there,
Yeah.
Brian. I'm going to have to ask you to back up a little bit, review your story, and tell it again.
first, wait, second.
Let
I'm
the
like,
record show. Brian said he was out with his friends. He got stuck in traffic and got home late.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Okay, so back up. So you get into law school. Before that, what did you study at A&M in your undergrad?
I was a finance major.
Okay.
Originally, I just looked at the long list and I was like, what is the highest paid major? And it was
But you knew you were going to go for your law degree after.
Oh, yeah. It was biomedical engineering. It was like the highest. And I got in there in the first day of classes, I believe. He gave a speech about if you guys aren't really passionate about both medicine and engineering and how they apply to each other, get out. And I was like, all right, I'll see you later. I'm going to go find something else. And then finance, math has always made a lot of sense to me. I'm a slow reader, miserably slow reader, which made law school painful.
I bet.
But numbers always made sense, and that's why I did finance. And did finance, did okay. Did much better in law school than I did in undergrad.
Okay.
And my tax classes or property or anything that requires attention to detail, I did really well.
But you came out of studying finance though with this entrepreneurship type little fire burning. If you were already branding yourself as the Law Hawk, where'd Law Hawk come from?
It was my first year in law school, and you can do some extracurricular activities, kind of like you can do in undergrad. And there's there's a lot of stuff you can do, but there's three main ones. Which I view them kind of like the football team of your law school. It's mock trial, moot court, and negotiations. It's essentially over and above all of your law school reading. Do you want to go compete on top of that? And so I was pretty good at negotiations. I was okay at mock trial. Moot court was kind of boring to me. It's just a lot of reading and just argument about what a case says or doesn't. But we were just nose deep preparing for a mock trial competition, and it's 3 a.m. in the library. We're all overtired and exhausted, and I was like, you guys know what we need? We needed power animals. And somebody's like, what about the legal eagle? And I was like, nah, it's too cheesy. What about the Law Hawk? And everybody in the room started laughing, and I was like, I just got fired up. I started moving around. I was just like, yeah, that's what it is, the Law Hawk. And so they started calling me Law Hawk, and it kind of spread to other people. And by my third year, people would be like, what's up, Law Hawk? And so that doesn't mean that I can carry that forward to a business unless I pretty much open up my firm right out the gate, which was a very scary thing because most attorneys go work for somebody else to learn the ropes. But I felt like I was confident enough because I'd had a lot of internships that were very focused on criminal defense or criminal prosecution, or working for judges that were in criminal courts. I represented myself since I was about 15 years old, and it's probably past the statute of limitations, and sort of my friends as well, telling them what to do. My buddies and I'll send you a picture that will show this, but my buddies and I get a seatbelt ticket or a fireworks ticket and just go to court for each other dressed in suits and tennis shoes.
You got to be kidding me.
Since I was about 15, 16 years old. And we get shit dismissed all the time.
That's amazing.
Sometimes a cop would show up and we'd have to cross-examine them. It would not go that well because we had zero training whatsoever. But
just for what you saw in Law and Order or something? That's how you knew how things went down in court?
I don't even know where I thought I had.
That's hilarious,
I'm telling you,
man.
how brazen I was. It seems to be a pattern that a few years later, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
Right.
And then that probably just is going to keep happening
for
the remainder of my life, tumbling down a hill. Just holy shit, I can't believe I did that thing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But we do pretty well. One time in a municipal court, I still occasionally go help out my friends or go visit because it's ticket cases. I usually don't do ticket cases, but I went back there the very first time I went back there as an attorney. I was like, holy shit, I recognize all of this. I remember coming here when I was 16 years old, I think, for a fireworks violation where I was shooting my best friend. He's the cop in all my commercials. I was shooting him with fireworks, 100-pack of Saturn missiles, in the middle of the city limits at a 4-way stop. And the cop just turns on his lights on Saturn missile number 3 and just.
Is that where the experience from this one came? What not to do with fireworks?
Fireworks safety! amped up.
First, leave the fireworks.
No one gets rowdy with them. I'm like, why not get rowdy? They're like, let's see what it can do.
You're gonna blow their hand off like Jason Pierre-Paul or something.
Yeah, that is the consequence.
You're out of control.
My dad told me
Make sure to shoot them
I was going to die on this one,
outside city limits.
but this one was the most dangerous.
Like me.
Oh my god. What the hell, man?
So I put like a gondolier
Yeah.
of black cats and then like another one across my foam cowboy hat.
Oh my god.
And I just like lit both of them. I'm like, he's like, what is your plan here, like cameraman? I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna like light them and we'll see what happens.
See what
I just like
happens.
throw them off if it gets too crazy. And what happened in that video, I think it shows just barely, but I have that one around the foam cowboy hat and I have both of them lit. And I'm just like, let's see what happens. And it falls down. And it's just like bang, 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 bang,
Oh my
bang, bang, like
gosh.
right across my eyes. And I'm just like, holy shit, I'm going to be blind now. This is exactly what they warned me about. And thankfully I wasn't. That one actually wasn't, there's a couple burns from that and a couple ruined suits probably, but that wasn't I think the most painful stunt I've ever done is there's like a really bad motorcycle fall when I was doing a wheelie from, on a baseball field, like from first to second.
Okay.
I think that's on my fourth commercial, Boat Cops commercial. And, that or there's Sword Day. This sounds crazy that this is one of the most painful things that's ever happened, but I was doing a video for, God, it was about, Texas Sword Day. I just declared it was a holiday because we were allowed to have swords walking around. I was like, fuck that.
They changed the law
I was
or
like, that's
whatever?
a holiday now. This is Texas. September 1st is now Texas Sword Day. And so I made a video about that. It got it sponsored by cheaperthandirt.com or Cheaper Than Dirt. And so we got just way too many swords. And there was one point where we were just like fucking around in a field and somebody threw a Mountain Dew, which I'm a huge fan. Love Mountain Dew. And I disrespected the Mountain Dew. I get it now. But I was like stabbing it with a machete, I think, and it just sprayed Mountain Dew directly into my eyeballs. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a piece of the metal can by how bad it was hurting. And I couldn't see anything for like a solid 10 seconds. It was like, I guess it was like the bubbles or something going against my eylids.
I bet carbonation's an MF on the
Couldn't
eyeball.
see anything. It was like one of the most painful things. It was like pressure on my brain almost. But that was like one of the most painful things that has ever happened.
When did it cross? Did it cross? So you come up with Law Hawk. Everyone's calling you Law Hawk around campus.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, F it. I'm just going to start my own thing when I pass the bar.
I applied for federal defender's office and I said if they need me to help out the underserved population on federal crimes, because I didn't really like what the federal government was doing to people. They were just putting them away on some shit that I didn't really think the most common thing that happens with federal cases, people plead guilty right away and then immediately just try to mitigate. And I just didn't like that. It would result in people pleading guilty to things that they didn't do. And I hated that. And to the point where even as an intern, I would draft 40-something, 50-something page motions to withdraw their guilty plea and fight whatever case it was.
That's badass.
And I just couldn't stand that. And so I would have worked for them. They said I need to learn Spanish. And I was like, I will learn Spanish. And I think that probably other applicants have probably said, I will learn Spanish. But whatever. They said no. And at that point, out of spite, which is kind of what I run on, it's like some of the best fuel I have is like, oh yeah, I'll open up my own law firm. And started doing commercials, talk with Brian Longcar and
Did you?
Yeah, I told him about my idea before. I mean, I of course reserved the website and handles that were available at the time. But I went up to Brian Longcar. It was like a good timing type thing because I hadn't fully decided if I was going to open up or not, and talk with them. And Brian Longcar is a strong arm.
Yeah.
Grew up watching his commercials.
Absolutely.
Him and Jim Adler.
Yeah.
And so I went up and talked to him.
The Texas Hammer, Jim Adler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Talked with him recently, too. But Longcar was early on my career. But
rest in peace, Brian Longcar.
I know. I'm sad about it. He was so nice. And I told him the whole thing I was doing about Law Haw. And he just listened to me. He was just listening to everything I said. And I was like, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do these crazy videos that are like kind of like y'all's, except I'm just like making a joke the whole time. And he goes, you know what? The strong arm endorses the Law Hawk. And I was like, oh my God. You don't even know how much you make my day right now.
Game over.
Yeah. It really amplified.
Was there, when you were in college, was YouTube a big part of your and your buddies' lives? Were you looking at YouTube videos?
No. I've been making videos with like my crew of best friends since we were about 15 or 16 years old, just like with really shitty old, like put a VHS tape in the thing and like make a video. And we would just make videos and
you guys are obviously troublemakers and funny troublemakers if you're going to court for each other dressed up as attorneys.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we just, I think Jackass was probably an influence, but this is happening even,
About the same time,
it was getting real big, and I was like, I love these guys. These guys got to do their exact dream job of making each other laugh by doing stupid shit.
Okay.
And they're getting put on TV, and they get to continue to do the shit that they like to do, which is make their buddies laugh.
Yeah, and they're like in their mid-40s now, and they're still making movies.
Still doing it. And so that was a pretty big influence on me, I'd say, because it showed me that if you believe in something strong enough, you can do it.
So we put Runs on Spite together with Stuntman, together with some entrepreneurial spirit, together with Brian Lawn Car, the strong arm, and out pops these Law Haw commercials.
That's a pretty good summary.
So what do you do? What are you guys sitting around drinking Coronas, just like writing up these scenarios, like crazy, hilarious scenarios?
Law Haw stuff?
Yeah.
We'd been making videos that were unrelated to law, anything. All my buddies knew I was going to law school. Whenever I graduated, got my bar results. One of them said, hey, we should make like a really stupid, crazy, obnoxious lawyer ad where it's like big yellow letters, like call me, and like the phone number. And I mean, I have a bunch of various random stupid skills that I was like, I can probably utilize some of this stuff. And the yelling is just kind of like when, I don't know, if I'm with my buddies, I get excited about something, I start yelling. But that was like not really part of it, I'd say. But we got together, and really the budget, if you want to even call it that, was like, I don't know, $500 to like, I said I'd pay my cameraman, who's a big part of this. He's damn good, and editor for the first, I think, 4 or 5 commercials. He's amazing. We just kind of got together and just started brainstorming. And at first, like, it was just me in a parking lot, just yelling stuff. And then we just kept amping it up. And originally the idea I had was I'll make one kind of conservative one, because we have an advertising review committee. We've got to comply with all the rules.
Okay.
And I thought that they were going to have
I was going to ask you about that.
I thought they were going to have a huge problem with anything I was doing, because they don't like advertising. Advertising for lawyers was illegal since about like 1977, or it was illegal before that, and then became legal in 1977 when the Supreme Court said, yeah, you're allowed to advertise your business, fuckers, so calm down. And if you guys want to put up like a advertising review committee or set up advertising rules, you can do that. But businesses are allowed to advertise, even if they're lawyers. And so what happened after that is it became kind of like a thing where other lawyers were like, this piece of shit over here, he's the type that likes to advertise. He'll put an ad in a phone book like a piece of shit. Like they just look at him like as such sleazy human beings. Yet the people that are advertising are like, whoa, I'm getting clients from this. I like this a whole lot. And it would just be something so simple that they would have a problem with. So the current level of stuff they have a problem with when I first started was just any kind of video advertising. It was something where we'd get, listserv emails or something like that. Like, this guy is doing video and how it might help your law firm. And so every single one of them was just a lawyer behind a bookcase at a desk. And he's like, hi.
Yes.
Let me tell you about what the law is. And I was like, golly, that's horrible. Like, nobody's going to pay attention to that shit. They want to know what the law is in their specific circumstances. And so I kind of thought, like, I would like to create something that is a factual scenario that I've experienced that I would like to know what cops can or can't do. Whether it's the first one was getting pulled over. Second one was if they bust up your house party. And third one was whether you should do the breathalyzer or not after you're arrested for a DWI.
Right.
And so I was like, these are just basic factual scenarios that people should know about. So the very first one was, I was going to make a very conservative one. I was going to make one that was middle ground where I just like teach people something about the law. And the third one was going to be like me crazy smashing stuff and yelling. And so what my filmmaker, cameraman, whatever you editor, he's amazing. He combined them into all three, like into one video. And I was like, dude, I said we needed like separate videos. He's like, well, I like this the way it is. And I'm like, God.
So that's what you had to send off for approval?
Yeah. So yes, I was like, well, I don't really want to share this because like it's not conservative, it's not middle ground, it's not, because I had a feeling they were going to not approve it.
Sure.
And it was going to get leaked or spread around everything. And pretty much that did happen. They said no, but this is a good example of how the advertising review committee works. Whenever they saw the first video, they're like, we saw this, you need to submit it. And of course, all of my listserv, it got spread around. The very first one, my cameraman put it up. He put up on his personal Facebook page, but the advertising review committee said like, well, we still consider that an advertisement, even though you didn't put it out. I'm like, all right. I guess I don't really agree with that, but whatever. And there was a few parts where I would say, I'm Bryan Wilson. They call me the Law Hawk. And then right after that, I would say, call the Law Hawk. So they would say that I'm Bryan Wilson. They call me the Law Hawk. That's fine. But right afterwards, because I didn't say my actual name directly next to my nickname, that could cause confusion.
Splitting hairs a little bit.
They could cause confusion in the viewer. And that could be a cause confusion. And we don't want to cause confusion in them. And I'm like, Mike, are you serious right now? He's like, no, it is a violation of 7.02 subsection B3. I'm like, oh my God. So I had to tell him to take it down. I'm like, I'll try to tell him to take it down, but it had already been spread a whole lot. And that's why nobody really knows. I think the first commercial was somewhere on E-bombs or something like that, which, at this point it can be put up as an educational video where you can kind of learn what you can and can't do. And then on the second one, I was like, I'm going to submit it to him ahead of time. And so I submitted to him ahead of time, and I noticed that there was one pivotal scene that I couldn't recreate. It was a house party, and cops were banging on the door. My buddy Nick Buzz, he's like, I'm gonna kick open this door,
funny one.
which has happened to us. God knows how many times when we were younger. Like, what do? Do they need a warrant to come in? I don't know. And so he pulls up the phone and calls me, one of my buddies, and I bust through the wall, and they like freeze framed on that, and they circled the guy calling me, and they're like, hey, that's an actor or a model portraying a client. That's a violation of 4.08 subsection B2(3). And I'm just like, are y'all serious? Y'all just did this to try to take it out. And I ended up winning that one because one of my buddies who's given me permission was a former client.
Sure.
And so that worked out for me. So I ended up beating him on that one. And I say beating him because it's almost like a competition with them. And then the third one, I submitted to them, and the 25-day deadline passed. I'm like, if y'all are going to hold me to strict rules and not be gentlemanly about this, then I'm going to hold y'all to strict rules. Never heard a response from them. Released it, went viral, millions of views, and that's what kind of led to the Taco Bell commercial.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What that Taco Bell commercial, so what, your cell phone just rings one day and it's like, what's up? This is, Mark Naismith with Taco Bell rep. And we want to talk to you about this.
That's almost exactly how the voicemail sounded, and it was at the bottom of my to-do list.
Did you think it was a prank phone call?
I thought it was one of my buddies like fucking with me. And,
I bet.
And I was like, again, one of my best friends who worked for me, like we kind of stay pretty well connected. He was helping me out, just responding to all this shit, and he was outside my office and like knocked on the door, was like, hey, come out here. He's like, I have the distinct honor and privilege to tell you that actually was Taco Bell, and they do want to do a Super Bowl commercial with you. And we're just out there yelling like in my office, like, oh my God.
It's so cool.
And so, but then everything happened after that. That was like they sent me the script. I modified it, sent it back, and it kind of went the way it did. And I'm really happy it did, because if nothing else, it just confirmed that what I was thinking could happen did happen. And, it may not happen again. I may never get another viral video again, but maybe it will.
Yeah.
And so at least at that point, what I thought would happen did happen. That was pretty cool. Thought it would take like 10 commercials though. Took 3.
Yeah.
So
probably because it was so different from all your competition was doing.
That's what you got to do. You got to be different no matter what you're doing.
So maybe you do owe a couple 12 packs to your cameraman who was just like, I'm putting it all together and we're just going to roll with it, even though you were like, let's stay on the conservative side a little bit.
100%. And his name's Jake Sam. He's a badass cameraman.
What's up, Jake?
Creative mind and editor. And again, if I've never thanked you for putting all 3 of those together and just slamming them right together. I mean, that was a good move.
I like it. I like the bold approach too.
Mm-hmm.
And then that they're telling you, no, and they're giving you, they're throwing up roadblocks and you're just like fighting them. That's great.
Oh, I mean, and they generally stopped after various news organizations after the first one. I would be contacted by smaller ones, and the second it was a little bit bigger, and third one was much bigger. And if they asked, I would bring up why we don't see a lot of lawyer advertisements. I would talk about that, and I'd call them out directly. I'd be like, yeah, this Texas Advertising Review Committee are kind of assholes. But they've since then they've kind of laid back a little bit and haven't been as difficult because they kind of realized like they were just pulling out technicalities, trying to call out commercials to make less advertising. You really just have to figure out what somebody's motivation is. Like, everybody's going to have feelings that they want to do a certain thing, and to convince them of something or to get them to go your way, you have to understand why they feel that way. And once you do, it's a lot easier to kind of get somebody, look, man, come on. Look, this is silly. Let's come on my side.
So instead of just going right at them, listening to their perspective and trying to see it through their eyes, which is normally and usually, if they don't like what you're doing based out of fear, usually there's a fear, but at least that's my experience. And if you can see why they're afraid, what they're afraid of, and then address it, and maybe then help them see your perspective, it seems like you're really good at that. And it seems like to be a good attorney, you have to be good at negotiating. And negotiating, from my experience, again, is not just, I'm going to beat you at this negotiation and you're going to chew on that for the rest of your, let's both figure out middle ground. Where did you learn to negotiate? Where did you learn to see things from someone else's perspective like that?
I started with it to the best of my knowledge I started formalistic training in law school, and I just there was negotiations, mock trial, moot court competitions that I was talking about earlier, and negotiations just felt so natural. Oh my God, I didn't even have to think about rules. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to kind of understand the other side. And so what I did was it felt like it was pretty natural. You get done with your first round of competitions and you feel defeated because other than the people that won the final round, but you feel pretty defeated. And so what I did was I just started reading. I figured out which one I was best at, which is probably negotiation. And I just read every book I could find. And it was everything from, how to negotiate, the 101 class.
How to win friends and influence people. That's a good one.
Every single one. And there's a common theme of just kind of understanding, why are they not doing the thing you want them to do? And address it and try to tell them, it's not going to go that way. Or if it is going to go that way, try to get them comfortable with it. Same thing happens even with prosecutors. I mean, there's a reason why prosecutors don't want to just outright dismiss the case. And you got to kind of understand that. For example, they're very hesitant to dismiss DWIs versus other types of cases. And it's because they're kind of pressured to get money for the state. We don't have a state income tax. I think that's part of the reason. I think Mothers Against Drunk Driving is a very powerful lobbyist group that kind of pressures various jurisdictions to hey, don't you be dismissing somebody, because we have this one example of this guy that got his DWI dismissed and then it killed a small set of babies, and here they are burned in a wreckage, and they'll hold it up and make you feel bad. And I think that driving while intoxicated is bad. I don't want people to do that, but I think that it is way over prosecuted. I think that there are people that are borderline cases that back in probably early 2000s, late 90s, maybe there became a change that used to be something where if you were kind of borderline, maybe maybe you had some alcohol in your system, but you weren't really over the limit or a threat, they would kind of be like, okay, well, park your car, dummy, and I don't want to see you again, and get a taxi and get out of here. I'll give you a ride home. And that's not really the way it is now. Nowadays in Texas, if they smell alcohol and it's nighttime, Friday, Saturday night, you are very likely to go to jail.
They're doing it up.
You are very likely to go to jail. It doesn't mean you're going to get a conviction out of it, but you're very likely to go to jail if they smell alcohol. And I mean, and cops, I'm friends with a lot of cops, and they'll kind of tell me, it's bullshit. I let people go all the time. But I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I see the videos that they try to prosecute, and people look fine when they're doing whatever test it is. There's 3 tests generally, which I love telling people about this. If you want to hear like a 2-minute spiel about it.
Yes, fire off. That was going to be my next question.
There's 3 tests they generally ask you to do. First of all, they're going to ask you to, if you've been drinking, are you coming from a bar? When was your last drink? What have you eaten? They're going to ask damaging questions you probably don't want to answer. You probably want to tell them if you have been drinking. You don't have to answer anything that they're asking you. If you get stopped, you only have to give them your name, date of birth, and address, which all that information is found on your driver's license. But generally speaking, when you're in that kind of social context, you want to answer. People just kind of want to answer like the stuff they're saying because, like, if I just am honest with this cop, like, it'll be better for me. And maybe it is sometimes, but whenever it turns into a DWI video, it's not very good to admit that you're drinking. And it's not very good to admit that you're coming from a bar. It's not really good to admit that, you had 6 drinks 4 hours ago and your last meal was whatever time. We don't want to really admit to anything. And I'm not advocating drinking and driving, but I am advocating a fair prosecution of these cases. And that's kind of where it gets nasty when we start talking about the standardized field sobriety tests. These tests are, in my opinion, designed to fail. I mean, designed for somebody to fail, and people will fail. I used to say that the people that would pass them are active duty military and gymnasts. And I've removed gymnasts from that because of experience I've had. I've had somebody that was a gymnast and still failed the standardized field sobriety test. Your horizontal gaze nystagmus, the eye test that everyone sees going like this. Right. Guess what? You're going to fail at 6 out of 6 clues. They're going to say 3 clues in each eye. And if you can't see it on the video, they're going to say, well, you really can't see it, but like I saw it. Just trust me. It's the trust me test.
Right.
And with the walk and turn, the one leg stand, those are the more ones people are familiar with, the walking down the line and walking back. And then the other one is holding yourself on one leg. The biggest problem I have with those is ever since we were kids and ever since even caveman days, we have been holding our hands out to balance. And the first thing they tell you is to keep your arms by your side. That is unnatural, and that's not how we balance as human organisms.
Pretty counterintuitive.
Yeah, and it takes away a lot. Like if you're balancing on a balance beam and you have your arms, it's a lot easier than if you have them wedged to your side. And if you raise them more than 6 inches from your side, guess what? That's a clue to intoxication.
Wow. Because you're not following the directions.
You're not following
clearly?
the directions. And they give you, and for example, on the walk and turn, they're giving you around 14 different instructions, depending on the officer, all at once. They're testing you on 8, and they tell you nothing about what they're testing you on. So if you start too soon, or if you like get out of the position while you're listening to the cop, which is a pretty natural human reaction to do that, you've already failed the test before you've even started.
Wow.
If you take one step off the line, they can say you wavered and you stepped off the line, or you didn't match your heel to toe on one step and you stepped off the line. You failed the test. One step. And with the one leg stand, it's the same thing. That's another clue, is to raise your arms more than 6 inches from your body. And they don't tell you all this stuff. I think it would be a little bit more fair if they told you what they were testing on. And here's the stuff that is going to be a problem if we see. Instead of, here's the video and this person looks pretty okay, and I'm going to turn to the jury because I've been taught that, and I'm going to tell the jury that, yes, that is indeed a clue on the standardized field sobriety test. And it's just like,
yeah, sure.
Like, does this guy look, regardless of their BAC, like, does this guy look like somebody you need to take to jail? Or is it borderline? Tell him to park his car. I personally think that a lot of it is cops thinking they are going to be either their policies from their bosses, which they're scared about violating and losing their job or making it something happen. But I think what they're scared about is like, if I tell him to park his car and he gets an Uber or a taxi and he comes back later, like he's intoxicated and comes back to his car and drives and hits and kills a family of 4, I'm going to be sued and I'll make the newspaper and everything. And I don't think that would happen, but isn't that on that guy for making that decision to come back to his car intoxicated? But if he's borderline, like getting a DWI is a nightmarish process. I mean, way different than like a possession of marijuana or, I mean, a lot of other a theft or a variety of other offenses. It's a lot worse. It's worse even than low-level felonies with the amount of classes and the amount of, breathalyzer in your car, the amount of check-ins with the court, the amount of times we have to go to court before we get a fair offer, something I'm not going to tell my clients to take anything that I wouldn't take standing in their shoes. So,
on the financial implications, right? So you got to hire you.
Got to hire me. Got to bond out. Got to bond your car out of car jail. Potentially pay the court a certain number of dollars a month. Potentially pay the interlock place a certain number of dollars a month. And that's before you've been convicted of anything. Sometimes they put a breathalyzer in your car, and it's kind of messed up, in my opinion. I think that if you've never been arrested for anything ever and they're accusing you of something, you shouldn't force somebody to do something before they've been convicted. But they have the right to put reasonable bond conditions, and the courts have said that putting an interlock on somebody's vehicle for after a DWI arrest is reasonable. I generally disagree unless it's multiple DWIs. Sure, you've already shown that you can get one and get accused of another. Maybe put a breathalyzer on, keep that, whatever. Make sure they're not drinking and driving anymore. But the problem is it's expensive, cumbersome, embarrassing, a pain in the ass. It's like one of the number one complaints I get is people that are arrested for a DWI, especially their first offense, they have to have a breathalyzer installed in their car. They don't understand it. And it's hard for me to even explain because I think it is a punishment in a way.
A punishment before they're
pled guilty to anything or plead out or gone to trial or anything. And we're supposed to be presumed innocent.
Yeah, supposed to be.
Yeah.
The financial implications to the state, like you said, there's no personal income tax here in Texas, so we got to make that up somewhere.
Yeah, I think that
it plays into things here or there. There's always a follow the money aspect.
That's kind of what I think. Police officers will deny up and down that they have quotas. They will, if you say the word quota, they're like, oh, no,
right.
We don't have a DWI quota. What are you talking about? I think there's kind of an unspoken, like, hey, a little nudge, like, hey, getting a DWI arrest last month. It doesn't make sense to me, to be honest, why some people are getting arrested for DWI that look fine on video. That, as far as I can tell from everything in the video and their admissions, they are not guilty of DWI, and I don't even think there's probable cause for DWI, and they're still arresting them for DWI. And that's the ones that really get me upset. And usually those are the most reasonable clients I have. The ones that are like, I really didn't think I did anything wrong. I mean, I'm going to do everything you recommend. I really don't think I did anything wrong. I get their video and police reports, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, why were you even arrested? This is crazy. And it's not an inexpensive thing to be arrested for a DWI. It's a real pain in the ass. So that's the number one thing. Biggest recommendation out of everything is Uber. Uber is a thing you can do.
Yes.
You can get 1,000 Ubers for one hiring me. So Uber, for God's sake.
Yeah.
If you had anything to drink, why take the risk? It's just the easiest, simplest recommendation. But if you get pulled over after like having a glass of wine with dinner, probably don't want to admit that you had the glass of wine. Because everybody says that they had, just 2 beers, or I just had one beer with dinner.
Right.
1 glass of wine with dinner. Everybody says that. Nobody's like, I had 7 beers over 3 hours, but also several shots in between that, which really, amplified what we got going on with my BAC currently. So just think about that even if you really did only have 1 glass of wine with dinner, which is depending on your tolerance and about 10, 15 different factors, you are probably under the limit. And if you don't have any other, it gets complicated. But basically, I think you're likely to be okay to drive, unless there's something I don't know about. But if you admit that to an officer, he's going to lump you in with a group of people that are like, yeah, I just had like one glass of wine. You're like, oh, okay, come on out, big guy. Like we're going to do some tests. Whether you do them or don't, he's going to take that guy to jail. But why lump yourself in the category with the actually drunk dude?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do you think, I've heard this and read it a few places, do you think that there will be a day when there will be interlocks on every vehicle in every state all the time, everywhere, and it doesn't matter if you've ever had a DWI or not, that there'll be interlocks?
You mean like the state is forcing you to blow into your car?
That every car is going to have one because DWI is such an issue and there's people all over the place crashing. And what do the numbers say about DWIs in terms of their frequency and quantities now that Uber and other ride sharing services are available?
I think they're still about the same.
Really?
I think that there are people that think about your group of buddies.
Right.
You've got some
Ditto.
guy. But like, think about your buddies. Like you've got, like back in high school days, there were stupid humans that were like, I don't care.
Wild men.
There were some that were like, oh man, I don't think this is a good idea. And they would like have, maybe have a couple. And then there were people like, I will never drink and drive ever under any circumstances. So probably that may have persuaded a group of people that can, and Uber's not cheap anymore. I remember when Uber first started, it was like $3 a ride or something like that. And now it's a little bit more than that, but still it's cheaper than getting a DWI attorney. So, but yeah, that's just Uber. Just take that, whatever it is, $12, $15, $20, whatever that is. I promise you it is so much better than a ride that you didn't want to have in the back of a cop car.
Absolutely. Sohail's got some numbers. After Uber came to Houston, motor vehicle collision traumas decreased by 23.8% on Friday and Saturday nights for all ages and 38.9% for individuals under 30. DUI, I'll ask you about the difference between the two in a minute. Arrests decreased across the board with the greatest reduction on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and impaired driving arrests declined overall in Houston city center.
I hate to be a dick about this, but what's the source?
Yeah, I'm seeing numbers.
New
from
research,
6 to 10% decrease.
The only
nationally.
reason I bring that up is because they're saying things like impaired driving and DUI arrests. And in Texas, there is a DUI, but I don't think that's what they're talking about. DUI is for people that are under 21. It's any detectable amount of alcohol. DWI is probably what they mean by that. And then the other thing is impaired driving. Like, I don't know exactly. I mean, it's either DWI or DUI. Maybe they're lumping those in together. So I don't know and a lot of people just combine DUI and DWI and don't know the difference.
And what is that difference again?
So
it has to do with age.
In Texas, at least. Okay. Because other states call...
In the great state.
Yeah, in the great state. Other places call them DUIs. They call them DWIs. There's no difference. In Texas, what the law is DWIs, driving while intoxicated. Anybody can get that. DUI, you can only get if you're under 21, and it's any detectable amount of alcohol. So, like, let's say you're 18 and you have a beer and you get pulled over. You're not intoxicated. And the cop's like, you've been drinking tonight. He's like, oh, I had one beer. Oh, well, you get a Class C misdemeanor DUI, a ticket, or you can take it to jail, either one. I mean, it's still a Class C misdemeanor, which is equivalent to a speeding ticket, but it comes with other nasty consequences as anything where
goes on your record, etc.
If you get me your first one, I just probably you'll be fine. But but if you're 18, you can also get a DWI if you're over the limit or not in control of your normal use, or if you don't have your normal use of your mental or physical faculties, or you're over 0.08, you can still get a DWI at any age, basically. But DUI is only for like 20-year-olds and under who just had a beer when they were going home or had a couple, but they're not intoxicated. Because they want to prevent underage drinking and driving as well with something separate. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Let me ask you about that underage thing. So Canada has a drinking age, so that Europe too, 18, or some places in Europe, 16. Do you think that our legal drinking age of 21 is detrimental to the overall growth and development of young adults when it comes to their ability to address, use alcohol responsibly? You can go fight for this country and die for it and pay taxes, but you can't have a beer when you're 18 years old.
That's an extremely interesting and deep question.
Yeah.
The only thing that pops in my head right away, without considering all the factors out there, is you remember when you were told you couldn't do something when you were younger?
Yes.
It's just like all you wanted to do.
Green light, bro.
So my mom wouldn't let me watch Beavis and Butthead. It is by pretty much everyone's standards a really shitty show, but I love Beavis and Butthead. It still makes me laugh a lot to this day. And I think that's because I was told I couldn't watch it. And so if we apply the Beavis and Butthead standard to that, I think that if you're like, not allowed until you're 21, everyone's maybe more likely to think it's a big deal versus Europe, where I think they allow, I don't think there's really something where they ID you very much. I don't remember that being an issue, but
it's
yeah,
real fast and loose.
Yeah,
over
you just
there.
kind of like have a glass of wine with your dinner, and it's not a thing that you get completely loaded on because it's a thing you aren't allowed to have and you need to consume quickly and powerfully to impress your friends with whatever dumb thing you're doing.
Right.
You know.
So just another way for the government to say yes, you may, no, you may not, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, it's hard to compare people, of other countries to the U.S. I think that.
Well, even Canada, though. You can drink when you're 18 in Canada.
Have you ever seen a show called Under Arrest? It's Canadian version of Cops. And it is, let me just tell you, it is worth a watch. It is hilarious what happens there. It is like Cops, except reversed.
Okay.
In Cops, the cops are driving around. They're like, and there's a lot of Fort Worth cops. They're like, yeah. And they're like sitting there and being like, yeah. Been on the force about 25 years. A lot of bad guys like to do a lot of bad things. And I like to catch them. And then scene of like somebody running away and the cop tackles him and puts him in handcuffs barely. And then a little more cop talk. They're like, yep, he's going to jail tonight. Didn't get away this time, did he? Canadian Cops, or the show's called Under Arrest. I call it Canadian Cops. It's just flipped. It's like these cops are way overwhelmed. They show up. It's not like, oh, domestic disturbance or, robbery. It's like bar closing, and it is just chaos there. Feels like there's like probably 100, 150 people out there just whipping beer bottles and
all those damn hockey fans, man.
Like, and the cops just show up like, hey, what's going on, Nate? Let's go ahead and calm down.
Hey there.
And all people are just, fuck yeah, you piece of shit. Smash the cops when they're like, they can't even control anything that's going on.
Oh, man.
The arrestees very frequently talk their way out of arrest. They're like, you don't even have probable cause for that. Hey, I don't think you have probable cause, so go ahead and let me go. And the cop's like, yeah, we don't have probable cause. He's probably right. Let's go ahead and let him go. I'm just like, what? That would never work.
No doubt, man.
Anywhere in America, but especially in Texas, they would never be convinced of something.
No.
Like that they don't have probable cause.
If it's not their idea, man, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So don't even bring it up.
I think the cops are just in Canada. This is an older show, but it's so funny.
I got to check it out.
Oh, I would strongly recommend it.
It sounds hilarious.
I think it's on Netflix.
Is it really?
I think so.
Man, I got to check that out. Did you find it?
Oh man,
Under Arrest. We got a trailer. Funny clip.
They're so. This is not.
Hey, we will be the judge of whether or not this is a funny clip.
And this. Oh, and Canadian cops just go straight for the choking.
Really?
Straight for the choking. And it's amazing how many times the cops will be like, I'm really going to take you to jail. If you don't just stop trying to punch this guy, I'm really going to take you to jail. Really going to take you to jail.
On the lowest type of the shit that happens in the world. That goes back. I would call you what? Little high scum? That's be nice. 200
be nice.
Elevation scum.
Canadians are always talking shit to the cops. It's a way different relationship. Like if we said any of this stuff to the Texas cop, we get thrown down immediately.
Oh yeah,
and violently arrested with our arms dragged behind our back.
No doubt.
which, you know,
Also,
what year do you think this is? Like early 90s? something
Man,
like
it's
that?
got to be. And, Canadians, for the most part, are so nice all the time. So that it's bottling up. And then when they have like 10 bottles of Molson, out it comes.
I saw one that was like these like teenage girls. I feel like they were like 14 or 15 years old. Well, they didn't know that at the time. It was just car speeding away, like
Right.
car chase. Cops arrive on scene, and the car is like slammed into something like a tree or house
Oh,
or fence
gosh.
or something like that. And the two girls, little teenage girls, are just standing there, and cops walk up and be like, "Oh, we just saw y'all driving away." And they're like, "No, you didn't." And they're like, "No, you were driving this car." And they're like, "No, we weren't." And I'm like, "Put your hands behind the back." "Oh, well, you don't have probable cause. I don't even know why you're trying to arrest me right now." And they're right. We actually don't have probable
Wow.
cause. And I'm like, what?
Man.
That is an easy arrest anywhere else. It's just a different relationship we have
Yeah.
with cops, where in Canada, it looks like they kind of, if you get to trial, they kind of hold the cops accountable. Like, they treat them like a normal person. Like, what did you observe? If you didn't observe it, it probably didn't happen. We have to presume this person's innocent. Versus, I think in Texas, like a lot of times, if somebody in a big cop uniform, belt, gun, badge, cool looking radio, and they get up there and they're like, "I clearly detected that the defendant was intoxicated and made my arrest." They're just kind of going to buy into that a lot more instead of actually holding them accountable for what they actually observed. They just kind of give them a bonus, I think, a little bit.
Is one of the most fulfilling parts of your job the fact that you're able to kind of take a little bit of that chip that you've got on your shoulder and put it to use to help safeguard the rights of your clients?
I think it's
You don't seem like an easy guy to intimidate.
I'm probably not intimidated, but also I'm not going in there like screaming or yelling at the
Right.
cops. Like, I just want to get to
So that goes
the
back
facts
to your
of-
negotiation
Yeah,
skills.
I just want to get to the facts of what happened, like, and really paint the best possible picture we have of our client, which is what the law requires. That they have to presume my client's innocent. And a lot of people, when they hear presumption of innocence, it goes in one ear and out the other. But they're also sitting there in the jury when we're doing jury selection. They're sitting there looking at my client like, "I wonder what he did." What he did, like, that's not presumption of innocence.
Yeah.
You have to clear that from your brain. It's really hard to do. It's kind of it's something that is not natural that you have to do. You have to really clear every bit of, "I wonder what he did," or "I wonder why he's here," "I wonder what, if this is a bad dude," or whatever it is. You have to clear that from your brain. It's pretty hard for jurors to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what my job is to get the right jurors in there that can clear that from their head and give my guy a fair shot.
Look at it
And-
objectively.
Yeah. Like,
and
what
take away
observation-
the emotions, like you said
which is hard
an
to do.
hour ago.
Which is hard
and
to do.
look at the facts, right?
Yeah, which is hard to do
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. When February of 2020 rolled around, how did things change in terms of what law enforcement was doing, in terms of what people were being pulled over for, weren't being pulled over for, were being arrested because we had the sickness come along, and there was a lot of fear. So be like, well, if it's not too bad, just let them go. Let's get them on down the road so we're not overcrowding jails with possibly sick people, etc. Did you notice things change?
It's hard to even hang my hat on one thing that changed. Like, so much change,
So much.
so aggressively, so quickly, and then kind of sort of is going back to normal. Even though I've heard that there's a bit of a COVID outbreak like going on in the jail at some point within the last few weeks or month or so. But going back to then, everyone was very, very scared of everyone else. You could just sense in the videos that everyone's like, "I just really don't want to get whatever you have. Oh man." And there was masks that kind of prevented the smell of alcohol from getting through one mask all the way to another officer and then through their mask for them to be able to breathe it. But did that really prevent them from saying that they smelled alcohol? No. Kind of continued that same way. When it came to probably the biggest thing that was most important is getting people out of jail that needed to get out of jail, that didn't need to be in jail and were at risk of dying of COVID. I mean, that was something that we all kind of, defense attorneys, at least within Tarrant County, I imagine everywhere in Texas, kind of came together to where we would help guide authorities on like, do we really need to set a high bond on this guy who's 68 years old and arrested for something silly, or can we just release him? Or somebody that's arrested for possession of marijuana for the first time, something like that. Can we just release them for God's sake, or do something else that's not keep them in jail with a whole bunch of other people that are probably not following whatever guidance the government has given us on how to prevent transmission and expansion of COVID. So, yeah, that's what I'd say. I mean,
was there a lot of like just rolling with the punches as every day was? Well, I mean, I know in my business, construction, every morning since COVID started, there has been some new, I'm talking every day, some new challenge of some sort that wasn't a concern previously, whether it's we can't get materials or we can't get guys on the jobs or fuel prices are out of control, just whatever it is. The last 2 years plus 4 or 5 months have been kind of a knockdown drag out. Did you have a lot of that you were having to wade through?
The biggest thing I noticed, practically speaking, was when the bars closed. I mean, all the courts kind of closed down for a good period of time. Arrests still happened, but there wasn't really a whole lot of people out. But the biggest thing was bars closing. There was a huge drop off in DWI arrests because everyone just kind of, I guess, drank at their house.
What about domestic violence disturbances, though?
I didn't notice a huge uptick like people have talked about. But the whole reason I didn't even notice the drop in DWIs until bars opened back up. And it was just immediate surge of DWIs. I was like, oh, that was okay. I thought it was just all arrests were down, but that was a big jump right there.
Gotcha.
So that was a pretty big noticeable thump in the bottom line whenever the bars closed, but that was to everybody as well.
Well, as a as an attorney, but also as a business owner, you've got that entrepreneurship piece, right? You're always balancing the books. You always got people to pay, payroll to make, all that type of stuff. Were there business hurdles that you had to get over when all of that started back in 2020?
So I would, at that point, I was also taking court-appointed cases, which kind of goes on and off, how many clients if I have too many private clients, I just stop taking appointed clients as best I can. Sometimes a court just gives me one. But yeah, for the most part, court-appointed cases kept coming in. And so I didn't think I noticed a huge jump until the bars opened back up. And I was like, oh, wow, that was a huge jump right there from that I didn't really notice. I didn't really tag DWIs being associated with bars being open or not. I just thought people would, I don't know, drink and drive with whatever they were doing if they were going to do it. But really, bars being open was a huge thing that kind of upped my business again. And it was something that, that was probably the biggest thing I noticed. I didn't notice, I've heard that about the domestic violence uptick, but I didn't necessarily notice that.
Yeah, I don't even know if the numbers on that play out at all.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching Dateline or 48 Hours or 2020 and I don't know, school teacher killed in her house or in a parking lot, they start questioning, right? Everyone in her life, usually your significant other or whatever gets, when somebody in the audience, a viewer or a listener, if they get arrested or they get brought in for questioning, what's the play? Because you've already talked about, hey, if you're out, you have a margarita with your tacos, maybe not just bring that up because there's, let's be our own best advocate here, right? You get brought in for questioning. Where do you, as a defense attorney, draw the line between
such an easy answer?
I know, but I want you to say it between I'm going to help out because I don't want to look a certain way, and also because I respect law enforcement. Law enforcement does keep us safe, whether it's been politicized over the last 2 years 100%. Or not. Okay,
we need cops.
Absolutely. But where do you, as a citizen, go? It's time for me to get Law Hawk on the phone.
So I think even cops agree with this. Like my cop friends would stand right behind me and said, oh yeah, exactly the same thing. The easiest sentence you need to learn is, I'm sorry, I don't want to make any statement right now until I talk with my lawyer. And you can make that before an arrest. You can make that after an arrest. You can make that during the arrest. You can make that when there's not even an arrest that's going to happen. You can make it when you are a suspect. You can make it to an investigator, detective. I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable making any statement until I talk with my lawyer.
And a lot of times when you see on these more sensational shows, but these are real cases, that there isn't an arrest. They just bring them, hey, will you come on down? I know you've just experienced this trauma, but
anytime.
We come down in the morning. Let's just have a talk. It's at that point where you've just got to be, the wheels got to be going in your mind. I got to get my attorney on this thing before I sit down on my own unrepresented and start talking.
And it's your natural instinct as a human in our modern day society and they're trained to tap into that and be like, no, I just want to ask you a few questions before I let you drive home. I want to ask you a few questions before, we just need to solve this to let you move on with all of this. Like, they have these little things that tap into our brains and make you think it'll be fine if I just tell the cop the truth. And we can tell the cop or investigator or detective or anybody else who works for the government that we're talking to, we can tell them the truth. Just talk with an attorney first. And you can give them your story, and then we can go talk with government, whoever it is, cop, officer, detective, investigator, anybody who works for the government. Why not talk to an attorney to let them know what the possible consequences are, what they're, what's going on? I mean, there are so many cases that I'm not saying it happens often, but there are some investigators or detectives that need a guy to get arrested on this thing. And it happens that people get wrongfully convicted of things through statements they make. They've proven they've exonerated people that have spent years or even decades in prison that have even given a confession to something that they didn't do, that was proven through DNA to show that this guy wasn't the one y'all are looking for, but they confessed to it. And that's a hard one for people to understand. It's like, why do you confess to it? Now, do I think that that kind of very aggressive interrogation happens? It's much more rare nowadays. Like, if we don't have, because now most things are filmed, or there's an expectation they're going to be filmed. But at the same time, can your statements that you make to an investigator, detective, cop, anybody be taken out of context? And like, part of your Miranda warning that they read you is, you have the right to remain silent. This is in one ear and out the other, people. You have the right to remain silent. That's your right. You can do that. It will not be held against you. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The prosecutors are very creative. They will take your statements and use them creatively and figure out a way to make it a damaging fact in your case. Not all of them, but like, we have an adversarial system of courts. And so if they get something that helps them, even if it's kind of like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but if we take it a little bit out of context, we can use it against them, they're going to do it.
If you're a citizen or not even a citizen, should you wonder, should there be a gray area? Have I been arrested or not been arrested? Is there, other than Miranda rights, is there another statement? So, Bryan, you are now under arrest for the attempted murder of Jess Marshall for beating you and Texas A&M in college at rugby.
So it gets
cool motive.
I know. It gets a little bit complicated, but I can simplify this. That's why your rights that they're saying are not just when you're arrested. Like, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to talk with an attorney, or if you can't have one can be appointed for you. You have the right to, this happens from the moment cops start talking with you. They have the right to come up to you and ask you some questions. If you don't want to talk with them, you don't have to. They have the right to detain you when they have reasonable suspicion that something is going on. Like, let's say you're walking in front of a bank window at 3 a.m, something like that, over and over again. They're going to be like, hey, what's going on here? What are you doing? Something's going on. Just, no, stick with me real quick. You're going to answer some questions real quick. And they also have the right to arrest you if they have probable cause. Like, if they see you leaving the bank after there's a shattered window and alarm going off and you have a money sack in your hand, they have probable cause to arrest you at that point. At any stage of this, whether a cop is walking up to talk to you, which is called a consensual encounter, or if they stopped you with their police lights because they have reasonable suspicion that you've committed some offense as low as like running a stop sign or a red light or something like that, or arresting you, you always have the right to not make any statement and not have that be used against you. What people were worried about is if I don't tell them what happened, they're going to say that I didn't tell them what happened, and it's going to look bad. But they're not allowed to do that. If you say, I'm sorry, I really want to talk with a lawyer before I make any statement of any type, whether I'm detained, whether it's a consensual encounter, whether I'm arrested, whether I'm convicted, like any stage, as you and I sit here, if a cop comes in here, you can ask a couple questions, be like, I'm sorry, we don't want to make any statement until we talk with our lawyers. Well, and it doesn't mean that a cop isn't going to go further than he's supposed to. Be like, well, you know what? You boys are detained. I'm going to ask y'all a few more questions.
Right.
Sorry, I don't want to answer any questions until I talk with an attorney. We're not doing anything. We're shooting a podcast video. Like, well, I got a witness who I'm not going to tell you who it is that tells me you guys are selling drugs in here, selling drugs and doing all kinds of bad stuff in here.
Can they fish like that? Can they tell you they've got a witness if they don't have one? Lie to you.
Are they allowed to lie to you?
Are they allowed to lie to you?
Yes. And are you allowed to lie to them?
So we've got inequality there a little bit.
You do have an inequality. It's really messed up. But what I'm saying is, it is held against you if you lie to a cop.
Yeah.
On a big video screen in front of a jury.
So there is a double standard, though, right?
Yeah, they can lie to you and be like, well, you guys, I got a feeling that y'all been coming from a bar.
Yeah.
Just a hunch or a feeling. I'm like, yes, sir, we were. But if you're like, no. And then later you say, yeah, we were coming from a bar. Boom. That looks really bad, but they're not going to hold that same thing against the cops. So the best thing to do, the easiest, simplest rule is, I'm sorry, I just don't want to answer any questions until I talk with my attorney. And if you're detained, like if you're pulled over for whatever reason, you have to give them a driver's license that has your name, date of birth, and address. If you don't give them those three things, they can take you to jail for something. But beyond that, you don't even have to make a statement. I mean, there's a lot of times where, I don't know if I do this every time, especially now that my car is wrapped, but I probably wouldn't make any statement to a cop unless I imagine if he was like, oh, I'm a huge fan and, I'm going to write you this ticket and let you go. I'm like, I'll talk with him. I'm not going to be a dickhead. But if they say, well, you've been drinking today, I'm not going to even open my mouth, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to open my mouth and say anything. And if he gets frustrated and arrests me, cool, fine. Do whatever you think you have probable cause to do. But I'm not going to open my mouth to anything you're saying once I figure out that this is an investigation for something.
Sure.
Beyond a speeding ticket.
Walk with me for a minute, just mentally. So I do a lot of restoration contracting for people. We get hail, tornadoes, fires, crazy stuff in North Texas all the time. You call your insurance company because let's just say bad hailstorm hit your house. That might happen to you every 10 years. Maybe that only happens to you once every 20 years. So it doesn't happen to you very often. I talk to my clients all the time and say, look, you don't know what you don't know about the process, about your coverage, and about the way that adjusters are trained to come out and minimize the damage and make it seem like maybe you're being overly dramatic about it, tell you it's not that big of a deal, it's below your deductible. So it's not every day, unless you're maybe a ne'er-do-well, that you're getting arrested. So maybe you don't have all of this experience where you've got the mental muscle memory to go, hold the phone, I need my attorney. When you advise your clients, you tell them, listen, I know you're a good person. I deal with this every day. Just get me on the horn, run through it with me, because I can shed some light and give you an objective point of view. Your emotions are high. What's going on? I got law enforcement in my face. Is that the type of advice you give clients? Hey, I'm the expert. I'm here to help you. Get me on the line. I
think that a lot of arrests are going to happen in our time of day. I mean, all my clients are going to get my cell phone number, but I think it might happen at a time where it's, 2:30, 3 in the morning where I might not be able to answer. But I think it's very important to remember that basic rule to just not make any statement, not do any of these tests. If you think you're either over, why create more evidence against yourself? And that is a very good point that you're making about the high emotional state, because especially like if it's not, we've been talking a lot about DWIs, but think about like an assault case. Like I had some dudes that attacked one of my friends up at Texas Ranger Stadium, and I had to intervene. And it was kind of a little bit of a
Red Sox fans?
I don't know what they were. I don't even know who was playing that day, but it was a bit of a brawl. And I was like, they threw the first punch multiple times, first at my buddy, then at me. And, we had to respond to that. And it was kind of a thing where if cops had shown up, the adrenaline is so high when you get into a fight, when you have to defend yourself like that. It's probably would have been something where I'd be more likely to make a bad statement. The best thing to do is, even in that kind of thing where your adrenaline is rushing, is if your adrenaline's ever rushing, you're not at the best possible place to talk with an officer who's recording everything or going to take your statements out of context.
And who arrests people for a living.
That is his job.
Yeah.
Is to investigate. I mean, he's there to help people, but like a big part of his job is arresting ne'er-do-wells or people that have violated the law.
Scallywags.
And if I can gather together probable cause from my police report, and I think it's sufficient, I'm going to go ahead and write that up in my best possible favor and arrest the student. I'm going to leave out all the other stuff that he said that kind of puts context with this or that mitigates it or doesn't emphasize my version of events.
Gotcha. Back to your finance major at Texas A&M, and now you pair that with the fact that you know the law pretty well. How have you been able to use your experience in both of those fields to gain a better understanding of crypto on the whole? And what is your opinion of crypto, and where do you see it going? Especially now, a lot of people, little nervous, bottom fell out of this or that. Maybe people were living on their crypto self loans.
Might go lower.
Maybe it will. Hopefully it does for some of us who've seen it coming. What did your finance degree do to prepare you for that? And what do you like about crypto?
I don't know how much my finance degree.
Well, math makes sense to you.
It must have helped in some way. I can't immediately think of how. I just thought it was very interesting when I first heard about it. No, when I first heard about it, I was like, it's lame. And when I heard about it again after another run up, I think it went up to close to 20,000, then knocked right back down to 3, something like that. I'm like, whoa, that was a big jump right there. Like, what is this? And so that's when I started investigating a little bit and figured out the beautiful, simple magic of Bitcoin and why it's, in my opinion, going to be, this is not financial advice. For fuck's sake, I can't believe I have to say that. But I don't even know if you have to say that, but why, it's one of those things.
Do.
It's one of those things.
Because you're an attorney. So you have to know.
This is not financial or legal advice.
Yes.
Nor is anything I've said in this entire
Have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day. But I think Bitcoin
is... subscribe, share. Thank you.
You know what? I just can't say that in my videos.
That's crazy. Subscribe, or
I know it's important, and I know.
I don't say it very often either, and I see people smash that subscribe or that like, and I'm just like, because you just told me to do that, I'm not going to do it.
It just makes me weirdly uncomfortable to be like, okay, everybody,
so hold on. From the king of self-promotion, we've got a weird uncomfortability.
It's just one little thing.
You'll name yourself.
Yeah, I'll scream my name. My own name and then my own nickname right together over and over again.
You're a walking paradox, my friend.
I don't understand myself sometimes. But
you think crypto is going to change the game, though?
I think it's going to be the future world currency, Bitcoin specifically.
Decentralizing currency.
I think so.
Taking away the government's ability to control its citizenry financially, because we've seen that. We saw that north of the border when there was a certain truck parade. We've seen China completely outlaw it now because people are getting a little too big for their britches.
Well,
does that have anything to do with it?
I think the biggest event in recent history that helps me comprehend why Bitcoin is another reason why Bitcoin is important is there was a political issue which is entirely fucked up, Russia invading Ukraine and going after them. And so the U.S. government, again, it's all a political reason, which I don't, to be honest, don't give a shit about politics for the most part. But for a political reason, the government's urged Visa, MasterCard, this is my understanding, I hope this is correct, but my understanding is that they urged them to freeze up accounts in Russia. And so there is a good chance that if they did that all across Russia, that you may have not really agreed with what Russia did, even as a Russian citizen. I'm like, I'm a Russian guy. I have a cool hat. I don't really like what they did with Ukraine. I've got my $100,000 in my bank account. I really don't like what they did, but I'm here and I got to take care of my family. And all of a sudden your account is frozen and you can't do anything about it because of political reasons that you may or may not have agreed with that you wanted to happen. But sorry, for a political reason, your account and all the money that you worked really hard over years to gather up and sustain your family and protect and pay for things, it's now frozen. You can't get it and you can't access it and you're kind of screwed. They can't do that with Bitcoin, really. I mean, they can try and they can make a lot of hurdles for you, but they really can't control Bitcoin. And so that's why I think once people kind of realize, like, wait a minute, a weird political thing happened and it kind of affected my bank account, and I just realized that I have to trust a bank who, for the most part, is going to be on your side. They like customers, they like making them happy and everything, but that's a weird issue that happened. It's
they are FDIC insured after all, so
yeah. And, I mean, that's an example of something where they can the government can kind of step in, and you may or may not agree with what they're doing, but they can kind of control you a little bit by getting a hold of your finances. And so I'm not way out there hardcore right. I'm not hardcore any direction on politics. I'm pretty moderate. I'd say moderate is the best description because there's certain things I feel passionate about, but that's a good example. I'm like, whoa, that's once more and more people start realizing that, and that you can kind of not really have to deal with that kind of stuff. I think more people will kind of come around to Bitcoin. It's hard to understand. It's a very, very hard thing to understand, but all you got to do is read the white paper about 3 times and you'll start to kind of get it.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
When you were trying to get your mental arms around it, you read the white paper a few times?
I'd heard people talking about it and I was like, oh, cool, electronic currency. And I kept hearing Bitcoin, and finally I just read the white paper, which is probably like a lawyer thing to do. Be like, where's the original document? I'd like to see the original document that was filed on this matter. And I read and so I read it, I didn't understand it, and then I read it again, I'm like, I kind of understood it a little bit better. And I read it a third time, I was like, okay, I think I kind of get this, and that's really, really smart thing that this guy did or girl did. Yeah. And it's pretty interesting stuff, and that's the simplest. We've been talking about a lot of crazy stuff, but this is the simplest thing. It's just, if you want to know more about it, just go read the white paper. It'll probably a couple of times. You might need to read it a couple of times.
Or if you're not as smart as an attorney and you're a construction, you got maybe like 5, and then you'll get it.
I read slow though. I read slow.
That's right. You did already say that. Thank you for thank you for being vulnerable there. I found this next level. I don't know if when you work out, I work out outside in the afternoons because I am in construction.
My favorite type
I just
of work.
go right at
to mow
it.
lawns since I was like 13.
Hey, me too.
13 all the way till like I was even a practicing attorney, and before I opened up my firm and I was still trying to make the decision, I went back with my old job.
Doing landscaping?
Mowed lawns as an attorney when that
wow, so
November and December.
You do hustle for a living. I found this hydration product that is next level. So I used to go work out. I would get home hour later, terrible headache, right? It's 100 and whatever. I'm out there to suffer.
You can drink so much water and it just doesn't.
It doesn't go in. So if you, I'll try to remember to text it to you later. It's amazing. You know the surfer Laird Hamilton? He's married to that volleyball gal, Gabby Reese. Either of those, they have this hydration. It barely tastes. You add it to water. Man, I haven't taken a leave in like a month, man.
Really?
And I was taking like 2 or 3 every night to go to bed. And that's terrible for your gut microbiome. Anyways, back to cannabis. What are your thoughts on when recreation, because medical use is coming in Texas. We're about to have somebody on the podcast who's opening a dispensary for medical marijuana. But what are your thoughts on recreational use in this state? Is this going to be one of the last of the 50, or maybe the last of the 50? No, really.
I don't think it'll be one of the last. I think Texas is pretty conservative, which generally is anti-marijuana versus a left-leaning state. They're going to be faster to both legalize it for medical use and recreational use. But I think that Texas is a pretty interesting state because they're right-leaning, but they're also they really love things that make money, and they're willing to make some exceptions for that. And so with marijuana, I think that's one of them. For example, the legislators in 2019, they changed the law to where they were trying to make hemp legal to grow as they're trying to make it for farmers where it's legal for them to make hemp, because the marijuana plants, you can make hemp with them, or you can make THC laden plants that you can smoke and get high with. And so what they did was they put it at 0.3% THC. If it's under that, it's hemp, and if it's over that, it's something illegal that you aren't allowed to have anymore. And they kind of, I don't think it was intentional. I think it was a mistake when they did that, because it now requires, or it required at the time at least, a test on all plant material that they claimed was marijuana to show it was over 0.3% THC. And there was like one or two labs. There's like one lab in Sweden. There was very few labs that could do it. And so they just kind of changed the stance. Like the prosecutors changed their stance where they're like, yeah, we're more likely to dismiss this case now. It's probably going to be like, show us your guy is not a total piece of shit, and we'll probably dismiss it, or we'll give this guy credit for time served, meaning like whatever amount of days he was in jail originally, we'll give him that credit and let him sign something and be done with this case. So their prosecutors' view of it, whereas they used to probably want some kind of probation, it's kind of gone down a lot. And so I think it's sort of just steps that they're taking, like step up to eventually we're okay with it being recreationally okay. I mean, we don't want people smoking weed and driving their cars. We don't want people developing any kind of nasty, extreme marijuana habits. But really, those days are kind of, I think, coming to an end. And I think that most states eventually will legalize it and tax the hell out of it and make money for the state.
Yeah, you may as well. I mean, why don't we have casinos here? It makes no sense. Like, let's get the money flowing. Why are you crossing state lines to buy cannabis, to gamble? It makes no fucking sense.
I don't understand the gambling. I don't either. I never liked gambling that much. It's just kind of something where I'm like, why would I risk my money?
No, I'm right there with you on that. You know? I mean, Vegas has got no draw. I don't care. I would work so hard. So do you. To get that.
Like why do you want to put your like $100 that you earn? 100%. Like, why do you want to put that $100 and it just goes away? No, I agree
with you. I'm just saying, like, boy, do we pay a lot to drive on the toll roads around here, and boy, would it be nice if we were taking millions right there, over the board. What about all those folks in jail right now because they had this many ounces of cannabis and they weren't supposed to, and they're serving a stretch for that? When it does become legal for recreational use, are we going to see a lot of people let out of our prisons and jails?
Well, it's whatever they were convicted of at that time.
They're still guilty.
Even if the law changes. I mean, let's differentiate between state laws and federal laws.
Okay.
So if we're talking state laws, it's probably going to be under. I mean, I had a state case the other day. It was 30 pounds of marijuana in an airport. That was a state case, but if it's that much, there's a chance that the feds can pick it up and make it their case, and then it becomes a lot higher penalties, like a higher penalty range. So you're probably talking about federal cases, I imagine, where people had like 500, like a truckload of marijuana or something like that. They're going to still be in jail,
big
especially.
Weight,
they're moving big way. They're probably still going to be in jail, but at that point, they're probably involved with somebody bigger that they either wanted to flip on, or that were thinking, I'm never going to flip on this person. I'll take any amount of prison time where I don't have to snitch on this guy. But do I think that that's a risk, that there's going to be the law changes and there's still going to be people in jail for marijuana? I think that's pretty low likelihood. I think. I mean, there could be rare exceptions that will make the news. Like, this guy is now doing 20 years for marijuana. Now it's legal. And it's like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And if it makes a big enough stink in the news, then whatever president can potentially pardon him, or if it's a state level offense, a governor could potentially pardon him. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that to get to the level where you're doing many, many years in prison, you have to have a lot of fuck ups in the past, and you have to have also really, really big fuck up with very specifically marijuana. So I'm not as worried about that. But does a criminal conviction for drugs, which currently marijuana is a drug, does it affect you in a collateral sense later down the road? Hell yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, any drug conviction you get suspends your license, puts out a criminal record, suspends your driver's license, which is a side effect a lot of people don't know. It also affects your record. A lot of places won't hire you, or a lot of people, if you have candidate A that has
hard to get a job, hard to get credit.
If candidate A has no arrests or convictions and candidate B has a drug conviction, and they're otherwise identical, they're going to choose candidate A. So do I think that's a bigger issue that's a little bit annoying to me? Yes, but adapt. You know, like if they don't want to hire you, then go
start your own business. Which is awesome. Like you, who when you're trying to figure out whether to start your firm or not, you went back and mowed lawns to make money. That's an amazing story. We'll get into that next time. What you're saying, though, about cannabis is you're seeing a sea change. It's going to change. We're taking slow steps toward it being not a big deal anymore and being much more parallel to the laws that we see in some of the blue states, if you will.
Yeah, like I think that there's some counties where they will, even if it's the typically Class C misdemeanors, cops, except with a very small 3 exceptions, they can take you to jail for any Class C misdemeanor if they want to. Not with speeding, texting and driving, or oddly open container. But anything else, they can take you to jail, like run a stop sign, run a red light, anything like that. They can take you to jail. But and typically with Class B misdemeanors, one step up, where you can potentially face jail time instead of just a fine, they typically take you to jail that night. But there are some counties that are saying, like, even with a Class B misdemeanor, like possession of marijuana under 2 ounces, they'll write you a little slip that says, "Hey, young man, you show up to court here and, within 30 days and you're officially charged with a Class B misdemeanor," which is very distinct than it has been. So some counties are doing that. Some counties they're just not kind of urging cops to take people to jail, especially when the jails were really full. They were kind of like sending out little memos. They were essentially to the effect of, you don't have to take somebody to jail on a possession of marijuana if you don't want to. And practically speaking, I've heard stories of cops doing, in my opinion, the right thing, of just kind of being like, just dump it out and get out of here. Or like, I'm only going to take you in for this other thing and not, for the Xanax you had or for the DWI, but I don't really care about the possession of marijuana.
Gotcha.
I wish it was like that 10 years ago.
What's that?
Wish it was like that 10 years ago.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Hill, what were you going to ask about?
So wrapping up, we want to show you this kind of new medium for lawyer content. Back in the day, TV ads would run. Now we got TikTok. Have you seen any of these TikTok lawyers?
So here's the thing. Everyone has their own social media network that they kind of grew up on or became, I say fluency. Like you became fluent in it. And so I'd say I'm fluent in Facebook, probably in Twitter, probably in Instagram, but TikTok, and I don't even really like Instagram that much. I think it's just bragging.
It's annoying.
It just boils down to bragging is all it is. But TikTok, my big problem with that is it doesn't seem like there are content creators out there, but it rewards people for not creating and just like showing the other person's content and their eyebrow reactions to it. Like, and like you're getting like I had somebody share one of my videos, it got 1 million views of him just reacting to one of my commercials, which is fine. I mean, like more business probably to me, which is good, but it is
for sure.
It's annoying to me, that part where it doesn't encourage creation of new content and encourages regurgitation and reaction videos but there are probably some really funny people in there. And I could just be an old man. I could be an old fogey, just
not old at all.
It depends how much you're transforming the content. If you're just doing the eyebrow thing, that was huge, proliferated on Facebook like 6 years ago. But
huge on what?
On Facebook 6 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
I see it all over Instagram though. Still,
you know what I mean?
Like the carnivore diet guys on there reacting to vegans who are making like ribs out of fried bananas.
You know, I don't give. I mean, like I think it's like a weird caveman instinct that we have to watch reactions to other people doing things and then other people react to like, oh, well, I want to see how that guy reacts to that guy's reaction.
Right.
And it doesn't interest me. I like original content creation. And so, to be honest, I'm not fluent in TikTok and I could be an old fogey that's just been like, I don't like new things. I don't like it when new things happen. I've got to understand them.
Well,
Where's my walker?
I think the benefit of reaction content comes from when we have someone like yourself, an expert who can actually provide.
Ooh, great segue.
Let's see.
I mean, I think if I learned TikTok or I had somebody show me how to do this, I think I would probably do well in TikTok. But that means I got to look at it, and I just don't want to look at it. Well, I have time. I just don't want to look at it.
Roll that footage.
I would love to see your analysis of this.
All right, beautiful day today. We're right outside of court in Downey with my amazing client here. Now, he was charged with a DUI causing injury and a hit and run causing injury.
Why are you showing his face?
These are a lot more serious than the typical DUI and hit and run charges because they at least carry a 1-year license.
I don't think I would do this with my attorney.
So he wasn't going to be able to drive for an entire year if he was convicted of that. It was alleged that he was at a party and he left the party to go get more alcohol.
100% I'm not doing this with an attorney if I'm charged with these things.
He crashed into 6 other cars and ran away and came back to the party. The police came to the party afterwards. He came out and it's alleged that he admitted to have drank before he left the house, and he admitted that he was the driver. At the end, we got an amazing result that we're very happy about. What happened to the DUI causing injury and the hit and run causing injury charges?
This is kind of amazing.
That's amazing, man. Good lawyer we have.
Fully dismissed, right?
Yeah, it was fully dismissed.
And he's just taking a reckless driving, all right? No DUI.
I feel like he's being coerced into agreeing to do this.
And a hit and run, no injury.
So he ambushes them right after the trial and then doesn't tell them, pulls out the phone, doesn't.
Let's go.
Law Hawk, would you do that? That is kind of low rent. And
okay, so
I'm just a guy.
What state is this?
Where did you say?
I think California.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't think.
Rip on California real quick, Law Hawk. Let's go.
I think California is a hell of a lot easier to deal with anything with authorities, generally with your juries. But commenting specifically on this, I could be wrong, but it's not something I think that your client would really want to, if you got not guilty on everything. At a minimum, if I even asked them to do anything, I just would ask them to, hey, review me if you feel like it, or I don't know. A lot of lawyers put up pictures of their clients with their face covered up, like a smiley face or something. I don't know. I'm not going to talk shit about advertising because it's whatever. I just think that I just don't understand the brag on this one because he's still got convicted of other things, and I don't think that a guy would be like, yeah, I got convicted of some stuff. So here I am. Hi, how's it going? Like, why would they don't want to do that? I can't imagine a guy being like, I don't know, unless he's really pumped about it. So I guess I don't know what's going on in that guy's head, but I would really want to make sure that my client was happy with some shit. No doubt. I put him on camera and being like, here he is right here.
He from behind the mask, he looks like he's smiling. But have you noticed how many people look attractive when they have a mask on? Then they take the mask off and you're like, whoa. On another note, Soil, did you have one last thing?
Yeah. If you think that's wild, just watch one more. Watch this. This guy is unhinged.
All right, D. Who's the best lawyer?
No mask.
And why am I the best?
Because he made my case go away.
And what were you charged with?
Aggravated sexual assault under a kid.
Of a child, right?
Of a child.
And how old was the child? And did you do any type of jail time?
No, I didn't.
And are you happy with the results?
Yeah, just saying.
And is there anything else you want to add?
He's the best lawyer because he fights for what's right, and he knows every single step that he takes is going to lead to somewhere else where he gets to be a better lawyer and knows his right step to be to fight for what's right for your sake and be not going to give up like any other lawyer.
Cool story, bro.
So let's pretend like a second for, all right. First of all, for this hypothetical, let's pretend like this is in Texas, just because that's the law I can comment on. I don't know what state they're in, and I don't know the law of whatever state they're in. Let's say that I did that with a client, and I'm really trying not to be a dickhead about this, but I'm just sitting there thinking they probably don't want let's say they're completely innocent, which I've had cases like that where they were charged with something that even the name of the charge, aggravated sexual assault of a child, is just such a nasty thing. And then with your name and face associated with that, what happens if you want to get that expunged later?
No doubt.
And then they Google your name or find your social media or anything, and then they find that that's there. And then even though you were completely innocent of it and can potentially get that charge expunged, which, Texas law gets complicated on that. But like, let's say that whatever charge it was a pretty serious one, but it's something that he can get expunged. There's no statute of limitation, or there is a statute of limitations on it. It goes past the statute of limitations. They get it dismissed. They can't proceed on it. I wouldn't want my client's face associated with that because it defeats the purpose of expunction, which is to erase, eradicate, destroy every single record out there. And guess what you did? You created a record on your social media because it's a dick measuring contest that you're trying to get more clients or whatever. And your client's face and the charge is right there. And are you going to take it down after you get it expunged? It's shocking me. But hey, maybe that state has something where you can't get that offense expunged, or maybe he pled to something lower. There's also big facts missing from my defense attorney mind of what the other one told us what it got resolved to.
Right.
That guy didn't.
He just said no conviction. So if our listeners or our viewers need an attorney who knows the law, who hustles, and who will fight for them, how can they reach you via email, Law Hawk?
Via email?
Yeah.
I mean, you can email me at texaslawhawk@gmail.com. You can just Google Law Hawk and you'll see, I imagine y'all can put up my social media stuff.
Yes, we will.
That might help out. I have no followers on TikTok or Instagram because I don't really.
But you respond quick on Facebook Messenger, and you're easy to find on there
fairly quickly.
And you have a newly wrapped vehicle. We'll loop that in, photo in as well, brother. I appreciate your time, man. This has been a pleasure. Whoop, go Ags, man.
Hey, all right. Ooh.
And we're doing this again because we got to talk martial arts, and we got a bunch of shit to talk.
Oh, yeah. We just scratched the surface, so I'd be happy to come
2
back.
hours. So you're a star, and you know it. And I love it.
Man, I'm just happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll hook you up with those Texas blockchain guys, too, man.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Awesome.
That was awesome. Well, that was badass. I hope you feel the same way. Man, what a cool guy. Can't believe he's a rugby player. These Texas A&M rugby guys, man. Got a bunch of them as friends. I think I just added one more today. Reach out to Bryan if you need legal advice anytime. You can hit me up if you want me to connect you. I hope you like the Jess Marshall podcast. I really love shooting these. I love getting to know fearless, badass, do-it-yourself people like Bryan. Can you believe he mowed lawns between the time he passed the bar and he started his own firm? That's amazing. What hustle. Drop me a comment below. Hopefully you've liked and subscribed, and hit me on Instagram if you've got anything to say or if you want to connect me with someone who you want to see me have a conversation with, and we'll see you all next time.